Hey guys, Zach here from Kubota Lynchburg. Today I wanted to delve a little deeper in the differences between the Kubota Grand L series and the Kubota MX series. They're a very similar series with some overlapping horsepower and functions and features and lift capacities, but there's a lot of subtle small differences between the two. I'm probably going to miss some of the features and some of the differences between the two, so feel free to comment below if you know something I missed on it. There's a lot of things we'll touch on. But the biggest difference, and we have two open stations, and then we also have two cab models sitting right there that we'll take a look at. The biggest first features that you're going to see between the two as far as differences are going to be comfort differences. So that operator station, that feel, those comfort levels, and then the transmission. We'll talk a little bit most about the MX first because it's the more basic one. You only have 2 horsepower options. You have a 54, 60 horsepower. So 2 horsepower options, and you can either choose gear drive or hydrostat in the 54 horsepower or just a hydrostat in the MX 6000 tractor. So you have limited options on it. You have 2 horsepower options. You have 1 transmission option on the 60 horsepower and 2 transmission options on the 54 horsepower, and that's about it. On the Grand L series, you have anywhere from a 35 horsepower Grand L to the 60 horsepower. And you've got, in between that, you've got a 35, 40, 47, 50, 54, and a 60 horsepower. So you have a ton of different model options, multiple different loader options between those models, as well as other transmission options. On some of them you have glide shift, on some of them you have cab versus open, gear drive versus hydrostat. Now there are some of those that are just the hydrostat or just the glide shift, but there's more options when you're looking at them. So a lot to look at right there at the beginning. Once you've narrowed down and let's say, all right, Zach, we're looking at a 60 horsepower tractor, or maybe 55 to 60 horsepower tractor, and I want to know my options between them. Why should I choose an L6060 versus the Kubota MX 6000 or the L5460 versus the Kubota or MX 5400? So it's going to come down to a lot of different features and of course price at the end. So we'll start with this Grand L. This is a 4760. Now this is one of the glide shift models, so not as common out there. I love the glide shift transmission. I've talked about it before in some of my other videos. Love that glide shift transmission, but a hydrostat is more popular. But it's going to have all these fancy deluxe features that add up to better operation as far as smoothness and comfort and enjoyability, less thought having to go into what to do to it. It is more customizable to each operator with the transmission options and everything like that, and it's a little bit more comfortable for each operator, but of course that means the price goes up. So if we take a look at this tractor and the MX next to it, basically it's the same loader system. We have a 1065 versus a 1055 loader. And again, on those smaller tractors on the Grand L, the 35s and the 40s, they do have different loader options. They'll have either a 555 or an 805 loader with a little less capacity. But comparing the MX to the Grand L on the bigger side, same basic loader, same basic bucket, 72-inch quick attach bucket, same basic lift capacity. But we'll go into some of these fancier features. So you have the same tire options between them. The biggest thing you're going to see is when you sit on this tractor. First thing I always notice is you have this little plastic panel here. Not a big deal, but if you're going through some muddy areas or you have brush or limbs or anything like that coming up, it just helps protect your feet. Honestly, when it's 0 degrees out and you're driving and you have that cold air washing on your boots or your shoes, kind of keeps that cold air off your feet as well, keeps you a little bit warmer. So as we sit up here on the operator station, we're going to run into multiple things. Whew, the suspension hasn't really adjusted. We're going to run into multiple things that are a little bit different one versus the other. The first thing that I pan to is normally my loader controls. I have a loader control right here. I can flip down my nice handy dandy standard armrest, which is not standard on the MX 6000 over there. And if you see on the MX 6000, the loader control right there is out in front of you. On this one, it's back. I can put my elbow on the armrest, I can grab here, and I can rock my loader arms around. Also on the Grand L, you actually have this little button right here at the front. So you've got a little button on it that'll raise on the hydrostat. It'll increase your RPMs as you're going. It'll increase your power. So first thing for operator comfort is going to be this nice handy grip. You have a nice, very large, I'm almost 6 foot and I can barely reach my foot up here, large operator station. Of course, you've got your tilt steering columns. It is a tilt steering column on this one. Nice, easy to use. we look over the MX, I'll sit on there. That is a solid straight steering column. There is no tilt on the Open Station MX. So again, comfort features. Your overall seat is going to be way more comfortable. I'm going to hand the camera back to Leah. So your overall seat is an adjustable suspension seat. It's high backed on it, so you have support all the way back up where the other one doesn't. Just all your controls are a little bit easier to use. You have great visibility and everything on both tractors, but it's the little small things that'll add up. Your electronic display on this one actually has a kind of a heads-up display. It'll give you more information. You can push buttons and click through your different options as far as what RPM are you going, what speed are you going, what's your engine hours and everything like that, what's your service intervals. Where on an MX, it's a very basic bare bones system to it. So that's going to be your biggest first visual difference between the two. It's going to be more comfortable. It's going to be a little easier to use, a little bit nicer on the day-to-day use, a little bit nicer on your loader control use and everything like that. It's going to be comfort. Now, as far as function and power, you're going to feel a lot the same on one versus the other. One of the things I'll touch on is on your three-point hitch. They're very similar three-point hitches. They're all going to have the telescoping stabilizer arms, which is these, and your telescoping lower links on it here to make hooking and unhooking implements easier. That's standard on both tractors. But you'll notice these two large cylinders here on the Grand L. Kubota's Grand L series can boast a very high three-point hitch lift capacity. For example, I think this is almost 2,800 pounds of lift capacity on the rear compared to like 2,370 on that. So hundreds of pounds more because you have these extra hydraulic cylinders, where on this one is just your basic system running through here. There's no extra boost to it. So if you have heavy implements or something else you're running off your three-point hitch, for example, I don't recommend it, but like a three-point hitch mounted backhoe, it is nicer to have the Grand L. This MX still has those deluxe telescoping, still has a nice drawbar, but again, it's a very basic setup system to it. Engine horsepower on a 6060 versus MX 6000 are going to be basically about the same. The biggest difference that you're going to come down to as far as non-visual is going to be your transmission on a hydrostat versus a hydrostat. On the MX, it's a very simple, basic three-range transmission. High, medium, low on a hydrostat, and you go. It does have cruise control, but that's about it. One of the nicest but also most expensive features, and it's one of the best transmissions out there, any make, any model, is the Grand L Hydrostat Plus transmission. You now have a three-range transmission that on, kind of like a shuttle shift on a bigger tractor, you have a high and low in each range. So you actually have a 6-range hydrostat transmission. You have things such as auto throttle advance, that as you push the hydrostat pedal heavier, your engine RPMs increase with it. So you can pick up speed and pick up power simultaneously. Where on a normal tractor, you've got a hand throttle. As you're going faster or slower, this one will respond to you. You also have things like stall guard on the Grand L. You push a button, you don't ever want your tractor to stall out. When you're pushing or pulling something heavy, it'll stop itself before it stalls out, hurts itself. That's a feature on the Grand L. You also have different settings you can play with as far as what type of transmission do you want on the hydrostat version, so you can mess around with your settings and get it more customizable. So if you're an operator that needs the comfort, you need the options for different features, you want a easier to use experience, this is a lifelong tractor, or this is your retirement present, or you just have the money, you want something nicer, heavier, go for it. The Grand L is also usually 100 to 300 pounds heavier of a tractor because of all those extra cylinders on the back and transmission options and everything. It actually weighs a little bit more. Not enough to make a big difference, but it adds up a little bit. So that's our operator station, and I'll real quick grab the camera. I'll go sit on the MX so you guys can see the difference between them. So again, there's no window right here. It is a little bit more of a basic bucket seat. Armrests are an option, but never standard. You don't have this nice deluxe seat like the Grand L has there. You've got the more bucket seat. Again, no tilt steering column to it. Your floorboard is a little bit smaller. I can reach my foot all the way up, so it's actually not quite as much foot room to it. You have that extra space in there. Your loader controls go back to our standard tractor up here. Honestly, unless you're doing a ton of loader work, you won't notice one versus the other, but this is your other loader controls. And same kind of visibility out the front, same loader lift capacity between these options. Hand the camera back, and we're going to go over to the cab tractors real quick. Transmission options are the same and everything like that. Tire options, loader options are the same on the cabs. But this is really where you'll start to see the Grand Series one versus the other. Now, apologies, this tractor's actually been sitting here for a little longer because this is 2023 now, and Kubota still hasn't shipped us a loader for this tractor. So it's been sitting here for a while. But if we take a look on the inside, I'll grab it again. We once again have those deluxe features on the Grandel, that tilt steering column. And this is your high and low range handle for each range. So as you put it into high, medium, low, you can then high or low each range right here. And you've got extra controls here, which are going to be showing your auto throttle advance, and you can change your display modes to see the more deluxe controls on it. Again, your loader controls are right up here next to your armrest, cup holders, radio, AC, all that standard. Well, radio's not technically standard, but if you buy a tractor from us, it's going to have a radio. Got your electronic PTO. Once again, a very large, spacious operator station. Plenty of foot room there. Very easy to use. Very comfortable with an adjustable suspension seat. Now, some of the features you're going to see standard on this cab are going to be exterior mirrors. MX, no exterior mirrors. Grandel has it. One of the nice things is this right-hand door handle is actually a door handle. On the MX, the other one, you can only exit out of that side. You cannot enter into that side. That's one of those things you have to add on. Work lights are standard on both as far as front work lights go. On the back of this tractor, you can add some easier to it on the Grandel, in my opinion, but you do have exterior options. Almost everything you're going to see, one versus the other, is going to be an option you can upgrade. Same thing on the 3 points. Again, you have your lift cylinders to them. You're going to have your turn signal lights and everything like that on the back of each one. You can add rear remotes, hydraulic remotes on the back of either one. Then when we go into the MX series, Leah, you can fill me on this one. I'll just show you real quick. Again, basic bucket seat. It is suspension, but not nearly as nice as a suspension. There's no armrests. For some people, they get in the way, but there are no armrests. Your loader controls are a little bit more basic down here again, not up here nice. It doesn't have that little button on the loader control to throttle all the way up. So if you're about to push into a heavy load of dirt, you can push that button on the Grandel. On this one, you've got a throttle all the way up. And you have a very basic tractor operator station. And your tilt steering column is a couple inches of play, not a lot. You have an interior mirror, but that's it. That's the only standard thing. So, again, it's comfort features. It's that transmission type. It's the little bit higher lift capacity on the 3-point that are going to be those biggest features. But for some people, it comes down to price. So, real quick before I came out to film this video, I real quick looked up like a 2022 price of a L6060 cab versus an MX6000 cab. Your price difference between those two was about $6,500. So it's going to be up to you guys whether you can justify, a $6,000–7,000 price increase to get that nicer transmission, nicer 3-point, nicer operator station, nicer controls and customizability versus a more simple, basic workhorse tractor, which is why Kubota put out the MX series. It's the biggest tractor you can get until you can get to a farm-grade tractor. Basic, simple, heavy-duty workhorse with a very good price point, with the same lift capacities and same features as far as workability as a Grandel. But if you need armrests, you need a right-hand door handle, you need some mirrors, you don't want to have to worry about adding all that on as you go down the road, maybe the Grandel's for you. You're saying you need a tractor that can pick up 2,300 pounds and has a 3-point, and that's all you really need? An MX might be the tractor for you, because it is going to be more affordable, more price point. So, again, let me know if I missed something. Please feel free to ask questions. We sell a lot of each of these. We are starting to sell more MXs than Grandels, simply because of that price point, and also because of availability. The MXs are much more available. One last point I just thought of. If you wanted a backhoe on a cab tractor, you cannot put a backhoe, Kubota subframe mounted backhoe, on an MX cab tractor. They have not come out with that yet. On the Grandels, all day, every day, you can use the BH92 backhoe. So if you wanted to buy a cab tractor 55, 60 horsepower, and you wanted a backhoe on there, you have to go to the Grandel. You cannot go to the Cab MX. Now, the open station, that is an option. So let me know if you guys have questions. That's the difference between the MX and the Grandel series.